Enlisted is an MMO first-person shooter that I've played quite some back and forth through the years. It's a free-to-play World War II multiplayer game that mixes PvP and PvE elements in their core game mode called squads, as you see in here that I'm playing in the video. Here you're in charge of an AI squad which will follow you wherever you go, but also listen to your order if you, for example, want them to stay put at an objective. Enlisted has been around for quite some time now, being released in 2021, published by Gaijin and developed by Gaijin Entertainment and Darkflow Software. Enlisted was also released on Steam last summer, not without a hassle though, which I have talked about and described in a former video. The game is available for free on PC, PS5, PS4 and Xbox One. When it comes to PC, I believe you should still be able to download the launcher, meaning play the game directly via the launcher via the enlisted.net website. Otherwise, of course, if you are on Steam, it's very convenient, as I'm doing here now, playing it through Steam. So how does this play then? Well, Enlisted hits a bit of a middle ground when it comes to being historically accurate and more of a casual shooting experience in comparison with other similar games such as Hell Let Loose, Red Orchestra, Verdun also, and similar games. Well, at least when playing the core game mode. Because there are other options as well that you might find by looking into the server browser. Hardcore variants of the existing game modes, but also Modern Conflict, I believe it's called, where you're fighting in modern settings using modern weapons. I have showed this also in videos before. There's usually also 1 or 2 servers where you can play Lone Fighter, which was an official game mode before, but according to the devs, there wasn't enough players playing it, so they removed it. This is basically squads, but without the AI squad, so it's a PvP only game mode. There's quite a progression system in Enlisted, something that was reworked not too long ago, or they made an overhaul. And I believe it might be a bit easier now to get into this, at least as a newcomer. Now, is it better than how it was before? Well, that depends on who you're asking. I can understand that people that have spent quite some time invested their knowledge in the former system, but maybe also money buying squads, weren't too happy about it. I believe that at least some changes made within the game was necessary when thinking about longevity of the game. Sure, removing the former campaigns where you could choose whether you, for example, wanted to fight at Normandy on D-Day or in Russia or in Berlin, etc., was a decision that upset some players, or many to be honest. However, for the long run, I believe that this was a necessary evil, if you will, since the player base was kind of scattered over 6 campaigns or more, so a merge update was made, which I've talked about before as well. Enlisted is a shooter that has roots in older style of FPS games, so there won't be any fancy movements like butt sliding or bunny hopping or anything that defines some of the more modern shooters out there, especially on the casual side of things. That goes for the overall movement speed as well in Enlisted, as would some describe as clunky, but it is honestly a bit more realistic than running across the battlefield like Usain Bolt. Yes, realism to a certain extent is something they've been trying to recreate, at least for example when it comes to uniforms. Yes, there's some misses here and there for sure, but overall this has led to a somewhat immersive feeling when getting into some of these historical places, if we're talking maps, where some of the iconic World War II battles were taking place. But if you're looking for more of a hardcore experience of an FPS game, then Enlisted might not be the right choice for you. But if you're like me, sometimes enjoying a World War II setting of a game that is a bit chill since the squads game mode blends AI and real players, then it could definitely be a thing to check out. I mean, it's free to play, as said before, and AI players can of course sometimes act a bit dumb to say the least in the game. Well, even so, then Enlisted might be indeed something for you to check out, and also doing that now in 2025. There aren't many similar games out there, to be honest, especially not free-to-play games that combines infantry vehicles such as tanks and airplanes in a World War II setting, the way Enlisted is doing it. I've tried a few other titles through the years, but most of these games has failed over time. When it comes to the actual gunplay, it plays okay, although I sometimes see that there's some packet burst, I believe. But you can do well in this game also if you're used to play FPS games without spending any money, which is on the plus side of things, since there's of course a monetization system implemented in this free-to-play shooter. However, buying certain squads can give you some advantages, that has to be said though. But I prefer to, and I enjoy to play mostly with the bolt action rifles in the game as an infantry player, so I'm not complaining that much. Since the game is considered to be somewhat old now, how about player count? Are there still people playing Enlisted? What I usually do when it comes to these kind of videos is that I start to go into the Steam charts to take a quick look. Remember though that the game is also being played separately on the launcher when it comes to PC outside of Steam, and we also have the console player base as well. But it can still give us a hint if the game is on a decline or the opposite, and if there's enough players, daily players online, so you don't have to wait a long time to actually get into a game. The last time I made an Enlisted video was about 6 months ago, talking about the merge update. At that point of time, the game was quite recently released on Steam, but now, almost 7 months after the Steam release, we will have some more data. Don't mind the April, May and June stats, since that's when they first tried to release it on Steam but had to take down the game again before doing a new attempt in July. Well, that's a story of itself. Anyhow, as you can see, there's been around 4K players on average a day playing Enlisted the last month, and a peak of around 7.5K players. If we keep those numbers in mind and quickly also look into active players IO, we can see a total amount of players, since this is supposed to be all players logged in playing Enlisted. We can see that there's been around an average of 514K players and an average of daily players that says around 139K players. Again, this is over the last month, meaning 30 days, and stats like this maybe should be taken with a grain of salt, but again it gives us indications. If we take a look maybe a year back, month by month, there's been some fluctuations when it comes to players going up and down, but even so, it looks as if Enlisted is still doing pretty well, being a game that now has been around for some time. So is Enlisted worth playing in 2025? I believe it is, depending of course on what you're looking for in a historical shooter like this, and also a concept having both PvE and PvP in the game and in the same game mode. I also want to mention that Enlisted is crossplay, a feature that I believe you should be able to either turn on or off, which I think is the case also in Enlisted, and something that should be a choice in all games with crossplay features. It's not the case with some of the modern shooters, and I don't understand why. Anywho, at the end of the day, design choices such as UI, skill trees, progression, etc. aside, it doesn't really matter that much if we're not having fun playing the actual game. And as said earlier, I do still enjoy playing Enlisted once in a while, also now after all these years, being someone that played the game early on. I'm also glad to play some content that was new for me, since I haven't played Enlisted for quite some time now. With that said, I also of course do want to hear from you what you think about Enlisted, and if you're still playing the game or if you just recently started to try it out. Let me know in the comments. And with that said, thanks for watching, that is very much appreciated if you come this far, and if you enjoyed the video make sure to give it a like, and I also hope to see you soon again in another video here on my channel. Have a great day. Later.